All right, Rand. Let's get to number 4 on our list. A young man I thoroughly enjoyed watching. He was injured after week 9 last season, so he didn't play the last month or so of the season. But Le'Veon Moss, I thought, did a lot of things really well, and super excited to see what happens when he's healthy this year. I don't think I mentioned it. I had like a day 3 grade on Mekhi Hughes. So let's go back to that real quick. You think he's a day 2 guy as we sit here?
Yeah, I think he'll be a day 2 guy. And like I said, I think he's going to rise once the coaches get the tape and they really start watching him.
Yeah, and we'll see. Look, man, I'm wrong frequently, so I could be wrong about that for sure. Le'Veon Moss, I had him as a day 2 guy, late day 2 guy. As we sit here, 6:02:15, unofficially. Ran sub 11 in the 100 in high school, so he can move a little bit. We'll see if he moves fast enough for you guys. 4 games over 100 yards, 1 game with 40 yards receiving last season. As I mentioned, just 9 games before he got injured. And it was a knee injury. Also kept him out of spring practice year before. But I thought he was scheme diverse, long waisted, made him look a little bit taller than even though his listed 6'0 frame. Plays with good vision, quick feet, lateral juice to make defenders miss in the backfield. Had a good jump cut. North-south guy who didn't, dilly-dally behind the line of scrimmage. And I thought he ran pretty tough. Ran running back routes with big play potential because of that yak ability. And, again, he's a get-in-the-way guy. As a blocker, that's something we can work on. What were your thoughts of Le'Veon upon first viewing?
Yeah, so looking at my notes, there's a lot of good, because I take notes on everything that I'm watching, a snap the whistle view, and I'm writing a lot of good size. Good job of pressing the block, good route runner out of the backfield, good burst and quickness, good feel for zone blocking schemes, instinctive runner with feel, and he keeps the chains moving. Honestly, I hadn't heard of him until I saw your list and what you had done, so I wanted to just peek just so I could be able to speak intelligently about these guys. But for me personally, I had him at 6, below the Penn State tandem, but knowing that he only played 9 games last year after suffering a knee injury, I could easily bump him up to 5, knowing that now. Now, here's the trick. Looking at this graphic, 2022, 2023, 2024, 6 games, 9 games, 9 games. That's something to 2022 kind of speaks for itself, but why is he not playing full seasons? So is there a durability concern here? I don't know. Again, I got to do my research and study, but there's plenty good. And the one thing that really stood out for a guy this size, man, he can run routes and he knows how to get open and he can win one-on-one versus linebackers.
So it's interesting you mentioned the injury concerns because that's one of the questions I have. How does he bounce back from that knee injury from a year ago last season? And running back maybe is different than offensive line or cornerback. And I say that because it feels like you churn through these running backs. And just going back to your draft class, 2004, Steven Jackson played till 2015, but you look at guys that were drafted right after him. Chris Perry only lasted 4 seasons. Kevin Jones only lasted 4 seasons. Tatum Bell, and those guys were all top 40 picks. Julius Jones lasted till 2010. So my point is this. Is it less of a concern if a running back comes in with an injury out of college because you may only get him for 1 contract anyway, unlike, say, an offensive lineman that you take top 5 and you want him to be there for 10 years?
Honestly, it really depends on the construction of your team. I just remember, I want to say this was the 2013 draft class when Eddie Lacy came out. I think it was Eddie Lacy and Keenan Allen. And our medical department at the time was kind of, couldn't really sign off on their medical because of their injuries. And, one of the things I learned is, you have to have a plan for the future. But in order for Eddie Lacy to make it to a second contract or even a Keenan Allen, those type of guys, like you as the GM have to get to your second contract. I'm here with you right now because I didn't make it to mine. So I couldn't be too concerned. You have to put yourself in position to win those games. And then you worry about the second contract when it gets there.
Yeah, fair enough. I mean, that's a good point. Focus on the present, and then the future hopefully will take care of itself. All right, I'm going to give you a super rich comp for Le'Veon Moss, and you can laugh at it. Someone in the comments from last week said Ryan's just begging for someone to love his comps. That's from 2 years of trauma with Rick, who hated every single comp I had. So I want to hear your comp. But the one that I came up with, and this is top tier summer scouting comp, a little Breece Hall.
don't like that comp just because I think they're two different running styles. I think
Okay.
Moss runs considerably harder than Brees. I thought when Brees came out of Iowa State, I thought if there was nothing there, he wasn't just going to attack
Hmm.
those dark spots, right? Like you saw it more when there was space and he could get out and use his speed. Again, this was the guy I didn't finish. I watched the Notre Dame game, the Florida game, and I still have the LSU game to finish on him. But the one guy, and I'm just talking about coming out and just ability, I kept seeing a lot of Frank Gore in his running style, is what I saw. So that shows you how much I like him. I played against Frank in high school, played against Frank in college, and Frank is a dear friend of mine. But again, I had him at 6, could easily bump him to 5 after this one more game of watching, but I saw a lot of Frank Gore.
It's interesting because if you look at this year's draft class from 6 weeks ago, there were 25 running backs taken in that draft, which seems insanely high to me. I didn't go back and check recent years in terms of how many running backs went. 2 in the first round, of course. And then, not surprisingly, a ton go 4th through 7th round. So it feels like even though we might love some of these guys, and Ollie Gordon perhaps as an example last year, had him as a top 100 guy, ended up going to the 6th round. It would not be necessarily surprised if some of these guys slip for whatever reason. Usually, if it's not injury related, it's because there's a run on offensive tackles, quarterbacks, cornerbacks, and positions of need. So even though we both love Le'Veon Moss, would it be the biggest shock in the world if he were somehow to go at the top of the 4th round? I don't think so. What do you think about that?
No, and I think you're spot on because as I'm sitting here and I'm thinking about Frank's journey, Frank tore his ACL in
Mm.
college and he had other knee injuries. And so he slipped into the 3rd. And so this guy, and again, not realizing what his medical had been, 4 games, 9 games, 9 games, he could be trending in that same area because the guy has talent, but the durability could be a concern. And like you said, that could cause him to slip to round 3 or 4.
Or he could have himself an Ashton Genty type season and turn on the afterburners, and then he goes from tied for 3rd with the first pick consensus. And by the way, you were no part of that, so you don't have to take credit or blame for that to being the 6th overall pick. So it could go any number of ways. That's what makes evaluating these players so much fun, and that's what makes college football so much fun. And I'm glad we get to talk about it now. Just give ourselves a little preview. In the meantime, you can check out With the First Pick wherever you get your podcast. Scan that QR code there. For Ran Carthon, I'm Ryan Wilson. Thanks to producers Ron. And thanks to all you guys who watch, listen, and comment. We will see you in the next one.